Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the APL Million 2024 fantasy kind of draft preview show. My name is Jordan Bromley. I'm going to be the MC for the evening for the event. The event's going to be on the 8th of August, but before then, we thought we'd give you guys a bit of a breakdown exactly what's going to be happening with this draft. And there's nobody better to really tell you all about it than the brains trust behind the entire contest himself, Craig Abernathy, on behalf of the Australian Poker Schedule. How are you going?
I'm going very well, Jordan. How are you?
I'm fantastic. Do you want to give us a bit of a breakdown on how this is all going to work? Because I'm really curious to see exactly how this draft's going to go.
Yeah, well, I'm really excited about it. It's an idea that it's not completely original. If you've seen any of the stuff that I've posted previously, Daniel Negreanu does a 25K fantasy every year at the World Series of Poker. That's been going for about 10 years now, and it's grown to a point where he's getting 20 teams every year. So we're hoping that this will set the ball rolling and have it every year at the APL Million. It is a lot of fun. It actually brings an extra layer of excitement to what will be already a massive series at the APL. And I thought I'd do it in conjunction with the new APL's Player of the Series promotion, where they've got 100K they're putting into the prize pools for a Player of Series to compete for points. So this will go off the back of the points that you get for those. So basically, the whole idea is you say to me or let us know that you want to enter a team. The cost is $1,050 to enter a team. Then what that gets you is a seat at the table at the live player draft, where this is where you pick your team to accumulate the most points across the APL Million. So you get to pick 6 players, and then you can nominate them. So it's, each team captain or team owner will rock up to the fantasy auction with a short list of players that they want to pick for their team to earn the most points across the series. They have a $150 salary cap to spend however they like. You can nominate a player. We take it in turns. So the first team up nominates their first player. They might say, let's get it started at $1. And then that player might go for $10, $20. Some players that are playing everything and every team wants them on their team, they might go for over $100. So it's really a bit of strategy about who you pick on your team. You need to know sort of who's playing the APL Million, who's going to have the most chance of scoring the most points in the Player of the Series race. We have capped it at 20 teams. That's just so that the fantasy live draft itself doesn't go for a million years. As Jordan said, we've got him doing the Master of Ceremonies. So, we can't afford to pay him for, 6 or 7 hours. So
I want to get out of there by midnight, guys. I don't want to be sitting there until 3 in the morning reading random names out. Like, I think it's going to be like violent enough for the 2 hours that we're probably going to be there. We don't need it to go any longer than that.
yeah, and I'm sure your sense of humor, and everyone hears you on the LCA poker commentary stream, and they all love your commentary. So I thought you'd be great to have there, leading the way, and moving the proceedings on. So as I said, we've got 20 teams. So at capacity, there'll be 120 players, 6 in each team, that go up to auction. If we don't get the 20, that's okay. I'm hoping that we can get 10 teams. We already have 6 locked in. So yeah, it all sort of comes down to the first thing that will happen is a live player auction, which is really a lot of fun. And players actually, as you imagine, Jordan, players get quite chuffed when they're actually drafted on a team, because a lot of these teams are owned by, big names in poker.
I think the
We'll
last
get
time
into
something similar happened to this, somebody was talking about how much they went for like 12 months later. So people are definitely going to try
yeah,
and use this for bragging rights any turn they get. I know there are going to be a few guys that'll get drafted that probably won't forget what they go for, good or bad. So
yeah, that's right. And obviously the team owner gets a lot of pride in winning the first 1K fantasy and taking home the prize money with that. And all the players that are picked, they'll like trying to perform to earn points, not just for their own Player of the Series race themselves, but for the fantasy team that they've been picked for.
Yeah, and the whole series is going to be a bit of a marathon. I mean, there's obviously the three tiers: the high, which is over 600; the mid, which is I believe 300 to 600. Is that right?
Yeah, yeah.
And then
So
everything below
yeah,
that. So
yeah, that's right. So when you're picking your teams, I guess it's important strategically to have players that will go in all categories. So we'll get into a bit of that when we look at some of the picks that we've got. Um, but I thought I might just answer a few FAQs first of all that people have been asking. All the information is on the AustralianPokerSchedule.com.au website. There's a big banner that says APL 2024 1K Fantasy Draft. You can click on that. You should be able to find a page with all the questions on there and how to get in contact. But there was a few FAQs, so I'll just get into that now. So the first one was who sets the players' prices, and I think that just comes from other fantasy competitions we've seen in the past, where someone decides, and even with Supercoach, there's a set price for a certain player, and you have to fit them in your salary cap. Well, the way that this one works, and this is the sort of the key, is the player's price is set by the market. So each player can only be on one team. That's a little bit different to Supercoach. This is how the fantasy works in the poker world. Each player can only be on one team. So, for example, I imagine Lachlan Crilly, he won the Player of the Series at the Turf Club for WPT League. He's going to be some hot property. So
definitely.
someone's probably going to pay a lot of their salary budget on him. But then some lesser known player that might be coming over from Perth who we don't see that much of over here. They might sort of go under the radar. And yeah, so the player's price is set by the market, basically. You nominate a player, you auction that player off, they're sold, then we get to the next player. So that's how that one works. What is the player's starting bid? You can nominate a player. Each captain takes it in turns to nominate a player. The player's bid can start at $1. Um, I suggest, as you said, we don't want to be here all night, Jordan, so we don't want to
Try
start
and
Lachlan
speed it
Cooley at
up.
$1. Yeah, we might start like if you did want to bid on Lachlan, you might want to start him at $50 or something like that, just to sort of speed up the process a little bit. But yeah, you can literally start any player at $1. So that's how that works. How many players picked per team? I've already sort of mentioned this. There are 6 per team. There's a $150 budget. That's the next question. So that average out to be $25 a player. But as I said, some players will go for $1. Some averages 25. Some will go for 100. Just depends. Um, can you bid on yourself? You can. You can enter your own team. You can bid on yourself. And yeah, you want to try and get the most points for yourself if you bid on yourself. So, yep, there's no problem with that. And how do score the players in your team score their points? That's using the APL's Player of the Series point system that they've released, and I've linked on my page as well. But as Jordan sort of alluded to before, there are 3 tiers, and there are games of Hold'em, there's PLO, there's mixed games. So probably a good strategy is to pick players that will um, that could get points in a range of areas. What do you think?
Yeah, I tend to agree. I think a common kind of downfall on a lot of fantasy teams that have been involved in specifically poker fantasy teams is they've picked players that have been specialized, but they all play the same event and they're all going to take points off of each other. You got to have somebody that's balanced across every event, and especially those mixed games, because those mixed games are going to have slightly smaller fields. So the points that could potentially be accrued in those ones are definitely going to be worthwhile kind of getting invested in. And digging through and trying to find mixed game players that are going to be able to play everything at a very high level, there's going to be a few names that are definitely going to be a hot commodity. And I wonder whether or not people are going to pick up on those.
Yeah, I didn't want to sort of, uh, get into too much detail with the research. Obviously, I don't want to give too many secrets away, but what I did do is had a quick search through the previous APL Millions and pulled up some stats. Um, so what I wanted to get through now is I listed some of the players. The APL Million series has run twice in full at Southport Sharks. There was previous APL Million series before that, but nothing like that we're talking now. Like this series has got 80 plus events in all different categories. We've had one in 2022, one in 2023. There is actually 4 players who have won 2 APL Million Series titles each. One of them is Yan Yi. I'll bring up his photo, and you'll recognise Yan, very well known. If you've played the APL circuit or on the Asian circuit, you'll know Yan.
Definitely a bit of a character.
I believe he's Malaysian. Another player that's won 2 equal first, Chin Chan. He's a Kiwi, and I remember seeing his photo on the board at the last year's series. I think he won 2 events last year actually, so I've put his photo up there. David Beckhouse, Western Australian. He's won 2 APL Million Series titles as well, and there's his photo. And someone who I hadn't heard of until I saw his photo, and then I recognised him, Chris Sofianos. Is that how I pronounce that, Jordan?
It's probably closer than I would get.
Yeah. So that's just some way. I just looked up on Hen Mob, and I looked back through the APL Million Facebook page, looked through the albums, and yeah, the people that you want to pick are the people that play most events and obviously get that trophy. They get the most points. So I thought that's just an idea of some of the guys that have won multiple events there. The next stat I brought up was specifically for Southport Sharks, the most caches at Southport Sharks. So yeah, I was looking through stats on that, and I thought, oh, well, who's up there? I'd say I just naturally thought of a few players, and I wasn't too far away. However, one guy who's got under the radar until I saw a photo of this guy and I looked him up is Sean Smith. Sean Smith generally plays in the low and mid stakes. I know he plays multiple games. I've played against him in PLO and Pineapple and things like that. So he's got 24 caches all time at Southport Sharks, which is number 1 on the list. Second is no surprise. We did talk about him briefly. Lachlan Crilly. He's got 23. Equals second with Liam Murray. We all know Liam. Well, I don't know. I don't even think Liam would know. He wouldn't keep stats on himself, would he, Jordan?
Nah, probably not.
So he's equal second with Lachlan with 23 caches at Southport Sharks. John Boardman, and this is sort of highlights the fact that mixed games are important too. John Boardman is always, I'm sure he'll be down if he's playing. He'll be playing the horse and the 8 game and all of that. He loves to get in the mix. And we've got Dustin Jung on 22 wins. He's equal 5th all-time caches at Southport Sharks. And then some very familiar names equals 6th with 21 and 20 caches between them. Jade Mitchell, obviously, she's always she plays low, mid, and even the high stakes, and she's always winning trophies. So, you know, she'll really be hot property in the auction, I can assure you. Carsten Cobbing, German star casino reg, but lives on the Gold Coast. Always plays mainly Hold'em and PLO. And then Michelle Anunu, who we've seen on the quite a lot of streams recently, and I think they even gave an interview on one of the leagues a few months ago, and that was interesting too. So Michelle is obviously going to be hot property come the auction time.
All right, on the topic of the auction, do you reckon it's time we get into who we think might be some pretty valuable picks? I know a lot of people are going to be curious what each of the teams, who's going to go for the most. Who do you think are going to be some of the hottest pickups in this draft, Craig? Who do you reckon is going to be up there?
Well, I actually thought I'd put the team list together. We had a bit of a chat, and yeah, so Binky's top tips. They're my tips. I'll put them up there one at a time. Chris Dipper Zenenos.
He always seems to be on a final table or winning events at Southport. I don't know. I'm convinced that he lives there at this point.
Yeah, he loves it. He's such a great guy to have in the room too. You know, he's there. He's just such a competitor. And even quite often he's got the short stack 1 minute, and then you'll check back and he's got piles. So he's just never down and out. And as we've seen, if you have a look through his Hendon Mob, he's got plenty of trophies at APL Series, including the APL Millions. Next up, Braden Jinks. I thought I'd have to pick him. He is a guy that just wants to play absolutely every poker tournament there is. If Reggio's open, he is in. So he'll be playing micro stakes, which is the less than $300, and then he plays the 600s, and then you will even see him in the 2.5k Centurion and ones like that.
And if there's nothing on, he'll probably pull up a table and see if anybody wants to play anything. So
Yeah, yeah, and he gets in the mix as well.
yeah,
He actually won an 8 game at one of the APL events.
there you
So
go.
pretty cool. And he's got a team in as well. Jade Mitchell, I've already mentioned. I think she got third at the WPT at the Turf Club recently in the Player of the Series there. She won 2 trophies. Absolutely hot property there. David Bowen's an interesting guy. I spoke to you before with the show, and I asked you if you knew who he was, and you said, yeah.
I mean, I've seen him on stream a few times, and I always seem to see his photo popping up whenever somebody's uploading photos from the Jack Star or photos from any event that's happening in any series. He always just seems to be there. So personally, I don't think I've ever actually met David before, but he always seems to be playing, and he always seems to be running semi-deep in these tournaments. So
Yeah, and as a commentator, as I said, you commentate for LCA Poker, who do the APL streams. So I'm sure you would have commentated probably half a dozen of his tables at least. And again, he's a funny guy, and he loves to get into it. He's also submitted a team into the fantasy, so he'll be at the auction, which we're looking forward to seeing him. And then I've picked Sean Smith as well, just based on stats. You can't beat the stats. 24 cashes, surely. If he's playing, I mean, I haven't confirmed with him, but if he's playing, I'd like to have him.
and it's interesting
And
that
then
you
I've
say
also,
that just before we get on to Jen. It's interesting you say in if he is playing, because that's going to be the big question mark for a lot of people that might be considered to be drafted. Is you assume that if they play, they're probably going to have good results, but that's if they are playing. So that's one thing that people are going to be thinking about quite a lot as well.
yeah, certainly. Like I've named these players. Most of them, I haven't actually asked them if they're playing, but it is important. Like for all we know, Sean could be off in Bali spending his winnings from the last series or something. And might be giving the APL Millions a miss. He might have moved somewhere else. So definitely worth chatting with people before you bid on them. You definitely want them playing if you're going to spend big bucks, get them playing. So don't be afraid. It's a good way to meet people too. Just you know, um, just ask friends what they think. Um, have a discussion, and you can always reach out to people and ask them. So Jennifer Castle's my last pick. She's just got back from Las Vegas. She had the World Series over there. She did quite well. She did well in LA. She's number 1 GPI player lady this year, I think. She's certainly up there. So she plays the mid and high stakes games, and it's great. Another to see another one of the girls listed, and I'm sure many of the girls are going to be picked amongst the teams this week.
Definitely. There's definitely going to be a few of those ladies that have been crushing it all over the globe lately that are going to be getting amongst it. So, as for
Yeah,
myself, for a few people who I think are going to be names that we should probably keep an eye out for. Admittedly, I'm a little bit out of the loop when it comes to who's doing what. But firstly, I think Cooper Feltham's going to be somebody to look out for. He's had a pretty crazy 6 months. He flew over to America just before the WSOP, came third in the 1700 WSOP circuit event at LA for a little bit over 154k USD. He's had solid results overseas for the last few months. And we've seen in previous tournaments, especially that I've commentated on, he's really not scared to go for the win. And he's with a really close knit bunch of guys that are working very hard to improve. On the topic of massive kind of rises in the last 12 to 18 months, Georgina Vuksanovic, sorry, Georgina, really from absolutely nowhere, playing all of the events up to 2.5, 5K buy-in, played the main event at the WSOP, had a recent deep run in the APO in Sydney, and is just fearless. Really just has zero fear for anything that's happening at the table. Will just go for it if she feels like she should. The next person that I've got up here is Adam Thagard. A little bit of an interesting pick. Every time I look at a final table photo or every time I look at events that are running, he always seems to be on the final table with a healthy stack. He always seems to be running deep. And if you guys wanting a mixed game player or somebody that plays varying styles, Adam did win the PLO event at the Star Casino, I believe, roughly around 6 months ago. So definitely adept to the mixed games. Corey Van Jarsveld, CVJ. I think I'd get in trouble if I didn't bring his name up here. Got to give my co-commentator some love. He had a great series last year, and he's the type of guy that'll do anything he can to get points. I don't think he's going to get much sleep, but he'll be playing all the poker he possibly can. Nathaniel Hutton, very, very solid player. Also been playing a few mixed games recently. I believe he played in the Mixed Game Academy series at Empire Hotel just a few weeks ago up in Brisbane. He's had multiple trophies this year and definitely somebody to keep an eye out for. And to cap it off, I'm not entirely sure. Again, we're not sure if he's going to be here, but we've got mixed games in the events list for the APL Million. You really got to have Mel in your team if these mixed games are going ahead and if they're going to get decent numbers, because he's got bracelets in mixed games. There's no reason you wouldn't try and get him in your team. What do you think, Craig? What do you think of those 6 guys there?
Yeah, yeah. Look, I mean, Gina V. Let's go back to thing. So Gina V. I'll just call her Gina V. That's what she goes by. But yeah, like she's one of the ladies on the up and coming circuit that you see just table after table, photo after photo, and she was over in Vegas as well. But there's plenty of girls, and it's great to see. You know, Shelley Pooley will get picked, I'm sure, um, as will Amy Butterfield, and there's yeah, like even I'm sure Phoebe Yan, she'll be dealing most of the time.
She'll jump in
So
there
she's
for
probably,
sure.
but if she's not dealing and she's got a day off, I'm sure she'll be in there. And when she does get a chance to play, she wins too. So yeah, it's great to see. There's probably a dozen other girls that I haven't mentioned as well. In fact, there's probably yeah hundreds. But it'd be good to see actually, and I think it just gives them a bit of confidence as well. Like when they're picked by these other players, team owners, to be on their team, and you'll be cheering for someone else, and that's what the whole fantasy thing does. I believe it really adds another level to the APL Million this year, and so I'm really looking forward to it.
Every time I've ever seen
Uh,
a fantasy happen at a series, whenever there's a close race or whenever anybody is seeing that somebody from their team is running deep, all of a sudden the rail for the final table just triples in size. There's like 10 people that would never ever be watching a final table, they'd be in bed, are sitting there 3 beers deep cheering on somebody that they've probably never even met. So
yeah,
it definitely adds to the atmosphere.
yeah, and I mean there is some big money up for this. If we filled the whole 20, you're looking at 10K for first. Which is big money. If we got 10, obviously you halve that, but no, it is a whole different layer and makes it a lot of fun. And it actually creates friendships as well. Like you might pick someone who you haven't actually met. Like for example, as I said, David Bowen you haven't met, but if you picked him in your team, if you entered a team and you picked him, then you'd say, "Hey, Dave," he might come up and say, "Oh, you picked me," and he'll say, "Yeah, what are you playing?" And just creates conversation and
He'd get so sick of me. I'd be checking in like all the time.
yeah, 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 yeah. So no, that's a bit of an extra thing. The next thing I sort of wanted to quickly touch on was just the late mail. So because, as we mentioned, APL are chucking 100K into the APL Player of the Series. 70K of that is in the Tier 1. So likely some high stakes crushers are going to come and chase that 70K of added value. Josh J. Schmackers McCulley. He's one of the best online players in the world, certainly one of the best in Australia. So it'd be cool to see him there. He'll be playing most of the high stakes stuff. Malcolm Trainer, obviously. He doesn't really need much of an introduction, but he won 3 trophies up at Townsville. I think it was earlier this year, and now he's gone over to Vegas and he has won the $1 million mystery for the 1K $1 million mystery for $1 million. So it'd be cool to see him. I don't know if he'll bring his bracelet if he comes, but just another storyline to sort of talk about there. I might let you talk about Naj.
Well,
You
another man
probably
who doesn't really need any introduction. Also finds himself running deep in tournaments. He's run deep in, I want to say, the WPT event that happened at the casino on the Gold Coast. He always seems to be on final tables at the APL series when he is playing the 2.5Ks and the Jack Stars. Also, as everybody probably knows, very, very strong PLO player. So I would expect him to be in the mix for all the PLO events. Next up, Alex Linsky, 7th in the 2018 WSOP main event, but also back-to-back Aussie Millions final tables. Probably one of the more annoying players I've ever played against. Definitely wouldn't want anybody to be at his table. I feel sorry for you if you have to play against him. Obviously,
Yeah.
Bert Perry. I'll let you speak about Bert because I feel like I feel like you have a bit of insight
Yeah,
on.
yeah, I put Bert in there. I think Bert's a bit of an interesting pick. I think he's a must-have just because, in the same way I spoke about Braden Jinks just wanting to play poker, Bert was obviously, one of the top pros in Australia, 23 GPI Player of the Year for Australia last year. Um, he he tells us all the time that he was in the APL Million main event for at least a dozen bullets last year. So he's one of those guys that will just keep firing and which is what you want in a team too, because um, you know you want people there at the end. And Bert, once he's prepared to just fire and get a stack, and once he's got that stack, um, it's a lookout. You don't want him at your table too. And the same as like these players like Linsky and Naj, Malcolm Trainer, Josh McCulley. If they've got a stack at the table, then they're going a long way to winning it. So
They're going to make the decision that they
and then
feel is going to be the best, and if that means that they're
yeah,
going to be ripping on you for 3x pot, so good luck. So
yeah, and you'll have a lot of fun commentating these commentators this year
definitely.
too if these guys are here. And I've mentioned Jen already, so I won't take up too much time there. But yeah, Jen will be back and playing. So thought I'd just quickly mention that we have got 6 teams locked and loaded. There's a few more just negotiating a few with their players and team names and things, but the ones that we've got so far, and you might have seen a reel that we put up yesterday. Bert Perry's team name, he's named his team Southport Sharks, and he sent me through a team logo. So
As only
I
he
thought that
would.
was pretty cool. Yeah, it's actually a shark, and it's made out of chocolate, I believe. I'm looking at
Chocolate.
his AI. Yeah, he's the script he gave the AI to create. So I thought, oh, this is a pretty cool idea. So when David Bowen mentioned me and he said, "Hey, I've got a team. My team. I want to call it polycephaly." Do you know what polycephaly means? Before I put the
I think
picture
I
up.
think I think you explained it to me before, but I couldn't quite wrap my head around it. Or do I need two heads to wrap around it? I
Yeah, two heads is the thing. So polycephaly. David's got this running joke about having two heads. So I typed into AI and it gave me a two-headed toad with some poker cards. So that was pretty cool. Brennan Jenks and Matty Gin have got the series savers, so they're looking to win this to save their series. Um, so they're locked and loaded. Dale Marsland from Perth, he's already entered the team. He called his team I Won't Million, and that's actually in reference to a Russian taxi driver, I believe. I didn't know about it, but I did Google it. And so this was a guy who basically turned a free roll into $1 million win back pre Black Friday on PokerStars. And he won the million in the PokerStars online event. So he's named it after that. So I've got his little icon there, the Russian taxi, I Won't Million. I haven't got a logo yet for Josh Mansell and the Albury Coup. His team is JMegs. Dean Cox from Perth as well. The Perth guys, good to see the Western Australians coming over, and they'll actually be good picks. And a lot of those guys will probably go quite cheap as well, without the knowing of them. But he'll give me a name in due course, and then we'll get that up as well. And as I said, I've got more teams that have been inboxing me the last few days, and they're keen. They're just getting details and getting some people together, so they can put teams in.
Awesome. Sounds like we've had quite a lot of interest, and it sounds like it's going to be a pretty fun auction. Want to tell us a bit about the auction that's
Yeah.
going to be happening on the 8th?
Yep. So the 8th of August, Thursday, 6 p.m. That's where you need to be. You need to be Southport Sharks Event Centre. That's where the poker is. We're going to have some tables set up there, and then we'll have the projector with the spreadsheet up on the big screen. And as players are auctioned off, we will fill out people's teams. We'll be able to see what your maximum bid is after you've already got players in there. That is important to know. Um, and as I said, you'll be emceeing it. Team selection. So your team captains will pick their teams in. We'll randomly draw who picks first. But yeah, just get a short list together, and then we'll randomly draw that. As I said, you're the host of the night. You'll be leading us through everything. They'll be listening to your voice all night instead of mine.
I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry in advance. I apologize in advance. No, it's going to be a fun night. I'm really looking forward to it. I've always wanted to be involved in something like this, so it's exciting that you've put it together. Thank you for putting this together. This is going to be awesome.
Yeah, we're looking to have a lot of fun with it. And yeah, as I said, it starts at 6 p.m. So that's pretty much it. I think that's all I wanted to cover. And yeah, so the last thing is I said, yeah, make sure you research and prepare a short list of players.
I know that
Again,
quite a lot of scouting reports have been written. People are putting names into Excel sheets, and people are getting well into the weeds on exactly who they're going to be picking and how much they're going to be willing to wager. So, with that,
yep.
I think we might wrap it up there. Thank you so much for running us through that, Craig. And we look forward to seeing all of you guys on the night on the 8th of August. If you have any questions, please feel free to message Craig at Australian Poker Schedule on Facebook, or message either one of us independently if you had any questions. But until then, good luck scouting, and we'll see you on the evening of the 8th of August.
Yeah, thanks, Jordan. We went a bit longer than we wanted to, but I got a lot of information out there, and I hope everyone, got some value out of that. And looking forward to seeing everyone on Thursday, 8th of August at 6 p.m. Thank you.